Champions League night, another win. Always good to see. A good game overall. I think this win. You know what? We come here every week, Dev. Sometimes even more than once a week, and so many times over the day we've been here talking about the game that had like 4 or 5 goals. And that's just from Barcelona. It's getting quite incredible. And as much as we keep talking about, okay, how sustainable is all of this, it seems to be working, and we seem to be scoring so many goals week in, week out, and it's incredible. It's great.
Yeah, it's a standard. The 4 goal is now the standard for Barcelona. If you if you look at how the results have been coming, but yeah, long may it continue. As for us and Barca
Mm,
fans, we have struggled through years. So I always say, enjoy it while it
mm,
lasts. While this cycle lasts, everything is a
mm,
cycle. As long as this cycle lasts, and we get the most of it, I think we should make the most of it. I do think, however, with this we can make the round of 16. I think so, without having to go into the playoffs. And once that happens, I do think a quarterfinal is possible. And
mm.
with a little bit of luck, maybe a semifinal as well, which won't be bad for our finances, especially if you see the other results like PSG lost today, Madrid lost. So yeah, I mean, if you look at the whole table, things are moving, things are happening. So hopefully, if this a deep CL run into quarterfinal, semifinal, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, it could be possible. We keep talking about that, right? This team should not really be so much concerned about whether they fail or not fail in the Champions League. And our standards, our standards are always high, right? Barca are Barca, and Barca will always be Barca, regardless of the situation they are in. And we always want to win in the Champions League, in La Liga, and Copa del Rey, all of it. We want to win all of it. And the same goes for this team, which is well capable of winning, right? We know this. We see this every week, but now with some of the other teams or so-called favorites struggling, as you mentioned, Arsenal lost as well tonight against Inter. And that was apparently a great game. I couldn't watch it because
Yeah, me
obviously
too.
multiple games at the same time, so you can't watch all of them, obviously. But yeah, this does give us some sort of an avenue, and I'm not even sure with this new format. Does the money change too with every win, with every round they advance? Is it more
Don't
money? Is it
know.
less money? How does it?
I'll have to actually.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
good one. Actually, we should do this. I mean, what's the prize money involved at the different stages of Champions League? That's a good topic to think about. I haven't, but yeah,
Yeah,
we've
because there is more games, and we can actually win more games now, especially with this run. And we do have a couple of difficult games coming up, but we also have games that are still winnable. And with each win, if we do get, well, I do assume we still get money for every win in the Champions League. That's still the same. It's just how much money do we get? Is it something that we can actually use? Is something that's significant? Is it not significant? I don't even know. But to your point, I think this team can actually make a run that we could be, proud of and happy with. It all starts with this because we do have to win those games. Like, these games are so important. They don't seem important on paper. Like, the opponent is kind of, you're not sure about them, but you have to win those games, especially in these circumstances as well. Hostile territory, you kind of going against all of it because they scored a goal, they carry by momentum. They're a team that can they can do that to you despite the gap in quality. They can still bridge that quality with the momentum, with the stadium, with the fans, everything going their way. And we saw that in the first half as well. They had things going for them, right? So it's good that these youngsters, this young Barca team, can actually overcome that and just keep winning, just keep steamrolling teams, and that's what we are very good at. And I'm happy to see that. Um,
well,
yeah.
Randy is back, and he's saying that I dislike Liao and you like
Uh,
Liao. This is not true. This is absolutely not true. Um this is my image is taking a beating. No, I like I like Rafael Liao. I do, but but I'm just not sure we'll be able to purchase him. And one and two, I'm not sure what happens to the balance of the team if we buy him. That's all. That's the only concern I have. But as a player, he's insane. Like, he was so good against in Madrid, and then that game that was so amazing yesterday. So yeah, That's that. Gavi's gonna have to work to get his starting spot back. Casado has been lights out good. Casado is lights out good right at this moment. It's going to be so hard, right? Not just for Gavi. Think about Mark Penal, the original Casado, who was who was supposed to make his. This was supposed to be his year, and then injury happens, and then he's out. And Casado comes in and slots in like he never left, and it's going to be hard for all of them with this team. And balance is so critical. If you just look at what's happening at Madrid, right? They've got a killer team, great players at every position of the pitch, but they can't pull it together because the balance is not there. And this team has balance. However you want to look at it, we may have questions about the players and this and that and so on. So, but they have balanced. You will see them in the game every week, and then that balance is worth preserving. So it's I don't know. It's going to be interesting, and I'll let Dom talk more about that. You're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the balance. Yeah, the balance is crucial. The profiles are always, it's what makes or breaks a team, right? It's not always the quality of the player, as we know as Barca fans. But yeah, that front line with Rafinha versus the same front line with Leao, it might not be as obvious of an upgrade as you might think, right? Is Leao in a vacuum better player than Rafinha? Probably is, right? Okay, on pure quality alone. Now, I know people will be like, "Oh, how can you say that?" Most of fans did not like Rafinha last season, and all of a sudden now we're all praising him, right? Because it's right. It's not really the quote is the profile. It's always the profile, like how you use that profile. But yes, when you put Leao into this team, it's not the same thing. It's not nearly the same thing. So you have to. What you have to
because
do
he'll have to
is
play. When you buy a Leao for 100 million, he will have to play.
He will have to play. You have to play, and then you have to decide: is it worth it? Does he bring something that we're missing? Does he bring something that we can achieve through his signing? Does he actually give you something that's worth 100 million that you don't already have in your squad? So that's the way you have to look at it to decide: is it worth the risk? Is it worth the investment? Especially for a team, for a club that might not be in a position to make one single massive purchase that will drain our finances completely once more. So is it better to go for something like that and risk it with a single Leao, or do you go and you buy multiple little pieces that you might be missing, right? So that's always going to be the question. But yeah, the balance at the moment is incredible. And Casado is brilliant. He's just, I think most the player that's dreading Casado the most is not Gavi, is actually Frankie de Jong. Frankie de Jong is looking at Casado and he's like, oh, I don't know if I can compete.
My position is gone. My position is gone. That's basically what is happening right now. And to be honest, like the team looks much more solid and better when Casado's on the pitch compared to Frankie. But even though Frankie's been out for a while, so and Frankie did play very well in the Clásico, it must be said. But still, I would agree with you, Dom, that the person who needs to be worried is Frankie, not so much Gavi. I don't think Gavi's staying. Gavi's not going anywhere. Not from this Barca. So that's that. All right. Do you think Vasquez has more nightmares about Rafinha or Leao? Well, I think Vasquez was better against us than against Milan. So I think it would be Leao.
Yeah, I would agree, because against Rafinha, he has to track him, right? He has to be wary of the space that Rafinha is going to exploit. With Leao, if Leao receives the ball and he sees Leao running at him, he's done. He can just pray. He can just pray and nothing else. And even that doesn't probably help against Leao in that situation. It's a different kind of defensive effort that you have to put in. Against Rafinha, you have to be laser focused. You have to, if you lose concentration, if you lose track of Rafinha and the space that you have behind you, you are done then. But if Leao receives the ball and he starts going at you, then you're also done. So different situations. But I don't know what I would rather. Rafinha is obviously unstoppable when he's in his own kind of situation. But Leao, dude, I don't know. He's just a menace.
Question, Dom. And I mean, some people are discussing this like in hushed tones, but let's say Barca do well, at least win the league, win one, right? One cup, all right? And do a deep run in the CL. And Lewandowski continues this form. Is he in a proper shout out for a Ballon d'Or?
Who,
because yeah,
Lewandowski.
given
Uh,
the rate at which he's scoring, and we have to, yeah, we assume that he keeps scoring like that.
what was his season like when he was supposed to get the Ballon d'Or? Then he was cancelled.
I think
What
about
did
50
he?
goals. I think
Okay, so he was 50
roughly
goals,
50
and
ish.
what did they win?
Ish.
I'm assuming he won the
They,
league.
I think even the CL they won. No,
Oh, was the
no,
Champions League there?
21st.
No,
No.
no, it wasn't Champions.
2020 was Bayern. 21 wasn't Bayern. So no, they
I
didn't.
don't remember, but yeah, he would. Assuming he wins. I see the Champions League is tricky because the Champions League is what would
Yeah,
normally
because there
give
is
you the
no
push.
international this year. So
Hmm.
internationals will not, split the vote away. There'll only be club tournaments, which would be Champions League, and the national league, so as to like the whatever Copa del Rey.
Mm, I guess it would be possible, but then again, even though he's performing so well, Lewandowski this season, the PR for Lewandowski is not nearly as strong, even though maybe it should be because he's really outstanding. But even when Lewandowski scores 2, 3 goals, we'll mostly talk about Lamine, we'll mostly talk about Pedri.
Yeah, which is strange.
It's
No, why does
yeah,
that happen?
it's kind of you get used to Lewandowski. Can I expect? Okay, that's Lewandowski. Okay, we don't have to praise a 36, 7 year old guy as much as we have to praise the youngsters, which fair enough. But he deserves a bit more recognition. I would agree with that. So I think it's
Man's on
difficult.
16 or 17 goals. I think I don't know how much is
Yes,
this list.
performance-wise, absolutely stunning. But the thing is, Ballon d'Or is so much about narratives, right? You have to have a
Yeah,
story. You have to have a story from beginning to end. Like, for example, when Messi won the Ballon d'Or, when he won the World Cup, it was about the story. People were saying, okay, but he only
yeah.
performed in the World Cup, but it was the story that you followed Messi the whole time, the whole narrative. So, was the narrative about Lewandowski? It could be okay, resurgence under the flag. He's still doing it at 36 and stuff like that. But is that enough for the Ballon d'Or push? It's tricky because the Ballon d'Or is tricky. It's not really about who's the best anymore. Well,
No,
often it's
that's
not.
it. Never
Yeah.
was.
So
It never was.
yeah,
But I was thinking, like, man's like really, if he continues playing like this, that's a 50-goal season that we are
yeah.
looking
I
at
mean,
from Lewandowski.
yeah, I would absolutely say he would, based on performances alone, he would deserve that. But the thing is, I'm just worried about the PR and the whole narrative thing, which is not as strong, even though he maybe should be stronger at this point, considering his performances. But
And I
yeah,
do buy Van Dee's point on Lamine having a better chance, because the PR around Lamine is insane. Even though we are Barca fans, I'll be the first one to accept that it's an insane level of PR that Lamine has. Is it valid? Probably yes, but he hasn't scored that many goals. I don't think he'll be scoring that many number of goals. Or whether his role is as predominantly playing as an inside forward or right winger. So, yeah, it's just. But it does feel that there are more chances of Lamine winning than Leva winning, even though
mhm.
Leva is actually more effective on the scoring charts.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said that we're kind of hyping Lamine. We always mention Lamine, and
Yeah,
rightfully so, because Lamine doesn't need to score to be the best on the pitch.
yeah, he
But
just
at the
needs to be
same,
there.
yeah, just needs to be there and do his thing, which he does brilliantly, by the way. And to Sharpnell's point as well, scoring 20 plus goals is
Not easy at
bloody
all.
difficult. It is difficult. It is absolutely difficult to do that. And so Lewandowski would earn that Ballon d'Or just on performances alone. But what we're trying to tell you guys is that it's not always enough to be the literal best player on the planet or the best scorer on the planet to get the Ballon d'Or, because there's so many different variables that are often non-football related or non-performance related that affect the whole voting system and all and so on, so on and so forth. Yeah, but yes, absolutely right. He's right. Scoring 20 plus goals is so difficult. And we are kind of spoiled because we
Yeah,
have Lewandowski and we have
and this.
Messi and we have Suarez. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's I'm connecting this, like, and I think when a little while later, where's that comment? They said, all our people like Diaz, Liao, they're outperforming well. It's true, they are performing well,
Mm.
but are they all consistently 20 goal strikers every season for the next season, 10 seasons? I don't know. Are they?
Mm. It's difficult. How many of them are such caliber? Not many.
And
Not
many
many.
people are
So,
talking about Liao being a 9 in this Barca to fit this Barca, plan. But I don't know. Is Liao a 9? Can he be
I,
a nine under Flick?
I, I don't think there's such a conversation. I had that conversation with one guy on Twitter last night, or I don't know when it was, but I don't think at the moment anyone's really thinking about that because I don't see it. I don't. Maybe I mean he has some of the attributes, but I'm worried because Liao, as much as he has insane ball striking, I don't think he has those instincts inside the box. That's number one. Number two, he is best when he receives in space and he can run at you. Can he do that from a number nine position? I don't think so. He would have to drop very deep and then run at you down the center. Not as easy as it sounds because the center is usually the most well protected part of the pitch anyway, and that it's always congested, right? And against
And also,
Barcelona,
Flick's system does not play like that.
it does not play
In
like
Flick's
that. No,
system, you
no,
cannot run through the center like that at
no,
all.
you
So
cannot. You cannot. So while he has the attributes, and I think he has good back to goal play, he has obviously the strength, the speed, he has the ball striking, he has some of those things. I still believe that playing him the way he's played now, so in that flair winger type of role out wide, slightly deeper position, so he can build up momentum and speed, and then reach the final third when he's actually running at you already. That's his best use so far. So I don't think at the moment, I don't think a number nine for Leao is like the ceiling or anything like that. It could be done, but there would have to be a lot more molding and tweaking in the process, which I don't know if it's worth it. If you buy a player for 100 million and then what you do is you want to completely remodel him, I don't know if that's worth it.
yeah, I doubt because a coach will want a system over a player, any coach, and
Mhm.
that's what Flick's building. So I doubt that. And if he's not a nine, I don't see Leao consistently scoring 20 goals this season. That's just how it is. But he's a great player, no questions on that. So, Shopnil, to your point, yes, once Lever moves on, it is going to be challenging, and we'll have to look forward to how how Flick solves that problem because he'll have to this way or that way. All right, okay. Shout out to Kounde. He was so good
It
today.
was good.
He really was so good. Those assists were so good. Like insanely well positioned. The cutbacks, all of them were incredible. I think his pass to Lewandowski for Lewandowski's second goal, I think was whatever, was insane. And I think Rafinha's finishing on his second cutback was insane. Like but it was his physicality, it was his playing, it was the havoc he caused on that right flank with Kounde, with Lamine. I think which we need to talk about because that combination has become so good over time, and they're only becoming better as they play more and more and more. You can see it's so effective right now. It's hard to contain both of them on that right flank. They easily make space. They easily understand each other's run. One drops deep, one goes forward, then there's a cutback that comes in. They combine well together. Then they connect with the Olmos of the world or the Rafinhas of the world. So there's a whole chemistry thing happening here consistently, and then their connection with in the triangle with Casado and Cubarsi. It's just perfect, and then that's just that's a beautiful system on the right side that has been built. It's not as good as on the left side yet with Balde, different types of players. But yeah, he was insane.
He was, and I'm glad you mentioned the whole synchronicity, kind of the cohesion thing, because that's most important. See, when we, I'm gonna use the word downgrade from Kounde to Fort. That's when the difference is mostly visible, right? How he interacts with Lamine, how he knows when to move, where to move, how to move, those things. And Kounde has mastered those things. Now tonight, I think Red Star just gave him too much space.
Yes.
They just for the first pass, for the first assist, he was just he could he could look up, set his body up, and then deploy the pass, and there was no one around him for a good 2, 3, or 4 seconds, right? So that's too much space and time for a professional footballer to have, for a Barca footballer to have in that position, right? So that's one caveat. But this aside, absolutely deserves his flowers because, as you said, Dev, he just knows how to move, knows when and where to pass, and that's crucial. Even more important than being an elite passer or elite creator, he understands the play. He knows what his next move should be, and then he follows it up with the action, and that's massive. So I think Kounde at the moment, he's in such a good form that he cannot be dropped either, and that's that's good because we don't really have anyone really to back him up. Fort obviously not ready to fill those shoes because he just, he's young obviously, but he also doesn't have that relationship, that those the cohesion with the rest of the team, which naturally would come more if he was to play more. But how do you bench someone like Kounde? You don't, unless you rotate. But when you rotate, the downgrade is unfortunately obvious.
A lot.
Yeah.
In fact, I mean that transfer window with that conjured up money from Barca Vision,
Mhm.
I think has become one of our best transfers windows probably in the last 8 to 10 years.
Mhm.
It was only after, I think, the Suarez window was very good, and then after that it was this window, and in the middle 10 years of mediocrity was what happened. But in the same window we got Rafinha, Kounde, Lewandowski, and those three are pillars
Yeah.
of this Barca that you're seeing, and none of them are like, they're undroppable. So that really was a great transfer window in hindsight when we look back into the past. Now let's get back to the game and talk about Cubarsi. He was so good as usual. I was looking at some analysis by Adil Rami on Twitter about Kounde's about the way Cubarsi plays, and we'll come back to that. But yeah, we all hope he's well. We just are seeing the same reports you guys are seeing, that he has received a lot of stitches on his mouth, on his face, and it might take a little bit of time for him to come back and play, which is not good news for us, but can hardly blame the kid for that. So he will have to get better. Real Sociedad will be a test, but thankfully they
Mhm.
don't have like incredible forward. They have a good team for sure, but I would be far more worried if it was with pacey wingers or what have you, which Sociedad doesn't really have from that perspective. But again, you will miss somebody like Cubarsi, because
Mhm.
Sergio Dominguez is just not in that same league at all.
No, 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 he's not.
So you'll feel that, and the way Cubarsi and Inigo manage that high line, it might
Mhm.
not be the same execution with other players. We saw Gerard Martin play today again, because Flick obviously is trying to build him up, and give him confidence and so on. So, but yeah, it will be a miss. It just, we need to see how long it is. I personally think it'll be about 2 to 3 weeks, but I'm no doctor. I'm not an expert. I won't be able to say anything, but hopefully he gets better as soon as possible.
Yeah, exactly. It's same here. I don't know the extent of that injury. I mean, it looks like a flesh wound, right? Just like it's a deep scratch, but still not just a scratch on the face. So I don't know how much time does he need to heal properly, and when can he actually perform or well play. It's not really a muscle injury or something like that. So I'm guessing it might not be as bad. I'm hoping at least. So we'll see what happens. But yes, when you have to change personnel in that back line, it's it's difficult because even if you have a player of high quality, which we don't really have, we don't have high quality rotational players at the moment. Even if the players were of higher quality, you need synchronization. You need to be on the same wavelength. You have to have the relationship formed and set in stone for that offside trap to work. As
Well,
we saw, as you said, yeah, with Gerard Martin, it's difficult. It's difficult when you don't play. It's difficult when you don't have that relationship with the other players. You don't know how they move, when they move, and for our tactics, it's crucial. So any change that you make is going to hurt, especially when it's Cubarsi, who's been a pillar of everything that we do off the ball, but also on the ball. So how do you replace that? We don't really have anyone to replace him like for like. So it will be an experiment that will probably hurt a bit, but we need to give him time to recover anyway. So we'll see.
let's talk about Gerard Martin, because he's a divisive figure.
Yeah.
The one choice that Flick keeps making that the Barca fans do not like at all. I have not seen a single fan who
Mm,
supports Gerard Martin. Um, if you look at the data, though, he hasn't made that many number of mistakes. If you look at the data, though, he hasn't caused that many number of goals or it hasn't been responsible for that way. More or less, he has done the job that was given to him. But why do you think, Dom? Is it one of those perception things? Is it one of those the other thing? Or what is it that nobody in the fan base likes Gerard Martin? Is he really that bad a player? And if so, why does Flick keep supporting him? I would suggest that Flick will know something more about football. He definitely knows more about football than I do. So I will defer. No. So what's happening here?
It's difficult to say. Yeah, it's difficult to say because we don't know what Flick thinks. We don't know what Flick is seeing in training, right? That might be the key. Because why doesn't he just play Fort instead of Gerard Martin? That was the question. Because we do have Fort, but he's not playing. He's only playing on the right side, not on the left side ever. So that's kind of the thing. I don't know. Honestly, whenever I watch him, Gerard Martin, it doesn't strike me as someone who should warrant that many starts. Obviously, you have to rotate.
But why? Let's go with you. But let's go with you, Tom. Because see, we can't talk about other people. We can't talk about what they think, but we can definitely talk about what we think, right? That's what this channel is all about. So, what tactically do you think Gerard Martin is missing, and where can you not place him? That okay, I don't really understand why Flick plays him. Like if one had to take just your point of view.
Well, if you compare it directly to Balde, it doesn't give you nearly the enough progression that Balde gives you. It doesn't give you enough defensive stability. He is a decent dueler. He can win his duels, but not as much as Balde can, right? Balde is more of a physical specimen, let's call it that way. Although Balde doesn't always read the play as well, he can still bail himself out through that, that physical foundation that Gerard Martin doesn't really have. So, and then moving forward, when he does overlap, I don't think his crosses are that particularly good. Also compared to Balde, Balde is also not an elite distributor by any means. But Gerard Martin doesn't have an edge there either. And then what Ballon does recently has been doing is inverts inside and then connects with the key targets in those pockets. Gerard Martin doesn't really do that as much. I don't know if he can do it or if he would ever try it, but I've not seen him do it or attempt it as much. So there's nothing in the defensive or the offensive spectrum at the moment that would warrant him starting ahead of Balde. Okay, yes, you have to rotate a bit. You have to.
But do we need to compare with Balde? Is there a reason for?
Yes, there is, because if you're going to drop Balde for Gerard Martin, then why are you dropping him? Is it just purely to rest Balde? Okay, fine, you're just purely resting him. Then, if it's just rotational, then you see what are your other options. Is Fort better than Gerard Martin in those roles that Flick wants his left back to perform? Now, again, the sample for Fort at left back is also not. Yeah, it's non-existent really. So what we can't really. We have no information basically. That's the main issue here. We have so little information, and yes, we can make these predictions and assumptions, but they are still assumptions because we don't have the sample to look at and say, okay, this is exactly why, and this is what has happened when Ford has played there, when Gerard Martin has played there. It's a very ungrateful position for us as well. But whenever I do see Gerard Martin, he doesn't strike me with confidence either, because I'm just expecting him to do something, something that's going to be costly. And I don't know, it's a bit harsh. He's young, inexperienced. He doesn't get much game time. And when he does, the whole world seems to be watching and just praying for a mistake so they can, type it on Twitter.
They can justify and say, yes, I told you so.
Yeah, exactly. yeah, exactly. And then say, oh, get all the likes and the retweets and all that stuff. So it's a bit unfair.
Let's take two different points of view from viewers here, right? So I'll go with the Lume Divine, who says that, okay, let me break it down. Gerard Martin is poor on the ball, and to pick out line-breaking passes, he also can't defend properly, and he's shaky on the ball. And this is not just this is one school of thought. If you go and read the criticism, this is one school of thought. And then there is another couple of points of views from here, which is more physical LB, a different profile than Balde, probably why Flick wanted him over Alex Valle, and then that he's 6 foot is his height. So the second ball, the long ball, and that's what Flick wanted him, like a very specific solution for specific problems to make his team more holistic, right? Which one do you think first of all, is everything true? Because it can be that all of these are true at the same time, and then Flick is making a choice based on what he's optimizing at that moment. That can be as well, or is there like is one more relevant than the other? There are two different points of view here.
So let's start with the first one. Poor on the ball, pick out line breaking passes. Yes, I've not seen enough from him on the ball to say that he's particularly good at that. So I don't think his attacking profile or the attacking side of his profile is good enough to be, I don't know, an overlapping fullback or something like that. Physical left back. Yeah, I guess he is a physical left back, but he's not as dynamic. He's not as what's the word? Not as mobile. He's not as mobile as Balde. So they're both physical, but he's not as mobile as Balde, right? So he's more of a stationary kind of guy. Yes, maybe he would be someone to defend, like a box defender, get the aerial balls, be in direct physical duels with other players, and then come out on top. Maybe that is what he's meant to be. But then at the same time, in this system, he has to be more than that, because when you have Rafinha as the left winger, Rafinha is obviously not going to hold width. He's obviously not going to be your creative outlet out from the left side, your dribbling out from the left side. He's not going to do that. He's not going to carry the ball off the left side either, because he's mostly in the central areas. Then you need your left back to do something when he vacates that space. Balde struggles with this as well, but he's still one step ahead of Gerard Martin, I feel, in this particular thing as well. So it's kind of, I don't know, what I thought when I saw the lineup. Okay, I saw Gerard Martin, I saw Frankie de Jong. I was like, okay, maybe Flick wants more control. He wants more steady passing, because as you remember, Dev, in one of your reviews way back then when Gerard Martin was playing, you found out in the stats that he won most of his duels, and that
Yeah, he does.
he made a lot of passes as well in the build-up. So I thought, okay, maybe that's what Flick wants. Maybe he wants more control from the left back. He wants more security and maybe those safer passes from the left back, as opposed to having Balde or someone who's going to charge forward and attack and try and carry the ball. Instead, maybe he wants more composure in the first phase. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Now, can Gerard Martin give you that? Potentially, yeah. Potentially, yes. Especially when you pair it up with Frankie de Jong, you get that composure. But then I didn't really see that plan pan out on the pitch. So I don't know if that was the idea that just didn't pan out in the end, or maybe Flick was waiting for something completely different. I don't know. So it's difficult to say at this point, I think. But that's kind of my
All right, so let's talk about today's game. I think we had an XG of 3.55 according to SofaScore. Obviously, things change and then so on and so forth. But again, we came out with 5 goals. We are consistently in every game outperforming our XG by at least 2 goals.
Yeah.
Average ballpark. How long do you think this is sustainable, Dom? Obviously, we as fans are extremely happy because you are banging in 4 goals or 5 goals every game. So who doesn't love that? We all love it. But how long do you think this is sustainable? Or should we go back to the old adage that let's just focus on the G and not the XG?
Yeah, I would definitely focus on the G. Yeah, but in theory, like on paper, it's very difficult to sustain that. As a team, yeah, sure, you can do that if you consistently create those chances and you have the players in the system that can actually profit from that kind of a strategy. We do have those players. Lewandowski, obviously, Lamine starting to get into his own, Rafinha. These players can be great goal scorers, right? So this system fits them to the T. And that's one thing. If you align those tactics to the profiles that you have a better chance of sustaining whatever approach you're trying to accomplish, right? So I think from that perspective, yes, this is sustainable. But also tonight we saw that we missed a couple of chances, bigger chances, smaller chances. So sometimes these actions, these shots will not go in. Often, so far, they have been going in, but they won't always, right? So there will come a time when we will have to, not rely on this overperformance as much. So how do you do that? You do that by creating actions or patterns that are repeatable, right? You have to be able to repeat things. You can't be scoring worldies every single game. That's what we keep saying about Dani Olmo. His goals from outside the box, yes, absolutely brilliant when they work, but he needs to be in better positions and more reliable positions more often, and that goes for the same team, for the whole team as well, right? Repeatability, more optimal positions to score from, and then the numbers will follow, in theory at least.
All right, so let's go into some more data-led stuff. So what the data is saying right now is, about 82% was, the final third. 80% of all passes from Barca were in the final third, and then on top of that, they had 71% of their passes were long balls, right? Which is quite a bit of a contradiction. Like you have that volume of long balls, and then that volume of short passes in the final third. And this is a question for the purists and those who love the DNA question so much. I don't. I honestly, as long as the team wins, I'm fine. But there are many people who are very bothered about that. So the question is, are Barcelona playing two sides of the same philosophy, or are we seeing the birth of a different philosophy altogether, which we are not accepting? And people will be on comments say that no, Barca was always playing like this back in the 1990s, and so I get that. I get the argument, but is that what is happening, Dom? If you look at some of these numbers, is this the best anti-Pep football that we are looking at? People will kill me.
I don't know if it's anti-Pep, but it's definitely different, right? It is different. We can't argue with that. But I don't think people have a problem with verticality or should have a problem with verticality as long as it works, right? If it brings you results, if it's actually aligned with the team that you have, the profiles that you have, I personally am absolutely fine with it, right? The difference, we keep talking about that. The difference is last season this wasn't working, so people were hating on it. It wasn't aligned with the profiles that we had.
But the numbers were different. Last season, like and we didn't have that many number of long balls. Yes, there was, but this is a very unique stats. Number of long balls and the number of passes and the short passes in the final third. It's a very unique stat for every game Flick is playing, right? Not really similar to what the numbers from Xavi were. Slightly different, right? So the question is, and the other question that connects with it, right, is obviously people love, lots of goals being scored, lots and lots and lots, and with our possession-heavy style, it was hard. You and I have both been there. Like we barely scratched through one goal in most of our games, and so on and so forth. So, is there something there which is real, which we are not talking about, or this is just fluke? Is this the actual,
So is what a fluke? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah. So is this actually turning out to be more entertaining as football? Right. Or this is just a freak of nature that's happening right now.
Entertainment is difficult because it's very personal, it's very subjective, right? Entertainment. So that's one thing. Now the other thing is, what is entertainment in football is generally goals, right? So you can say that a 0-0 game can be entertainment. It can be entertaining. It can be entertaining for a number of reasons. However, generally you do want goals in a game of football. It's a game after all, right? And you want goals because goals are the ultimate whatever of football, right? The ultimate achievement of football is to win by scoring goals, right? So I think from that perspective, yes, absolutely. If this style gives us goals, plenty of goals, which it does, or it has been doing so far, then yes, this is absolutely entertaining football, and it's something that we are enjoying but we're enjoying it because we're winning so much. If we were not,
but is it the same as, let's say, what Klopp was playing? Is it that's where I'm coming to, Dom? Like it's a question for the esoteric stuff, right? So is this that school that's actually providing to be more entertaining than the erstwhile school which Barca has been playing for so many years?
Could be. I mean, it's similar to what Klopp preaches or preached. I mean, it's the tactical foundations are similar. There's no denying it. Like verticality and gegenpressing, we see that at Barca now. So from that perspective, yeah, I mean, you could maybe say that this is this makes for more entertaining football.
You have to
Because
write
we
this.
oh. I don't know. It's difficult. It's very difficult.
You just have to do an analytical piece on this for 7,000 words, and then we'll have to let the people come and comment on this. They'll be like, people will
Yeah.
lose their mind if we say this. Yeah.
But it's difficult to say because I can't tell them this. You should be enjoying this more than that. I can't
No,
tell them that. Yeah. So,
people will enjoy
um,
what they enjoy, but the question is,
exactly.
are we fundamentally changing the way we used to play, and can we accept it? Or anyway, doesn't matter. Okay. Let's go into some other pointers, which is basically XG, the metric that's fair. A lot of systems are, but I think teams that play counterattack is not that consistent, I guess. And we have seen highly critical about that too. Yes, you're right. Probably. Consistency, after all stats and data can be, it's probability and randomization, whereas human beings are not like that. So human beings can do what they do. So you're right. But the fact is, we also do use those matrices to define game state and analyze the game. So logic says that sooner or later, we won't be able to consistently outperform the XG in every single game the way that we have been doing for now. And we're trying to understand what is helping us do that. Is that the personnel? Is that the positioning? Is that the gameplay? Is that something else that we are missing? Because like Barca hasn't got 3-4 goal scores in a Champions League since 1959. That's what they were saying on the television. So that's quite a statistic to think about. And we have had great players like Maradona, players like Rivaldo, players like Messi in that middle, and we haven't been able to do this, right? So what's fundamentally shifting? One, like it's worth thinking about that what really happened out here. So
Yeah, actually, just back to XG real quick. It is a metric that's good in some cases, but it's also not perfect yet, as Chapman was trying to say here. Yeah, I do agree. I do agree. There's a lot that XG doesn't take into account, and that's why you should never use XG just on face value, not without context. You can't use XG or any stats for that matter in a vacuum. You have to back it up with the eye test and with actually seeing what's happening out there, because stats can kind of lead you to conclusions, right? Even though if you don't see the full context, we could make a decision, or you could get some sort of a conclusion just based on stats that could maybe mislead you. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's a useful stat, but it's not like the be all end all. And we use it as a tool, not as the ultimate, I don't know, guideline, whatever it is. So.
all right. We've been going at about 40 minutes. Well, we'll possibly, right now, I think Atalanta and Dortmund are the next ones that will be interesting as games where we might have a little bit of a scare or a struggle. But at this form, I don't think that will be the case. Like, you can feel the confidence among us and as a team where we think that we can defeat any of these teams if we continue like this. So that's there. On the weekend, there's Real Sociedad. That will be interesting and challenging. I think we got to win that one to keep the league dominance and the point difference at 9 points, which is a very healthy buffer that we have right now, which will be fantastic. So I think that we got to look into that, and we'll obviously bring these games. We are trying to do a review of the or preview of the Dortmund game with some account that follow Dortmund and so on. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. And yes, today we'll bring a close to this, but it was fun watching the team. We are about, I think, 6th on the table, which is great. And hopefully, with this form continuing, we can make it to the final 16 without having to go to the playoffs, which would be the biggest thing, I would say. So that hopefully that works out. Good string of results all over this Champions League match day, I would say, from a Barca perspective. And Dom, any final words before we sign off?
No, just to thank you everyone for joining. These games are late, and we don't want every stream to be like over an hour. So maybe it is good for us as well to have one shorter one every once in a while. Hopefully, you still enjoy it. I mean, we do try to talk about the game. But this game, to me, the first half was tricky, right? But then after that, it mostly felt like it was on a cruise, right? It was like not a training match, but it was getting quite easy, and there's not much tactically or statistically that you have to dissect in that game specifically. So we'll tackle the next game as they come. Sociedad will be a challenge because they are intense. They will come at us. They will try and play their own way, and we will have our hands full, especially if Cubarsi is not fit. Even though I am seeing reports just now that he should be fine. But should we risk him even if he is fine? I don't know. So that's the question the Flick needs to answer as well, and I'm sure he will. But yeah, other than that, keep a lookout for our pieces. We will publish some things, a video and a piece this week as well, and maybe some more. I don't even know. I have to check the schedule to see what else. But there's a lot going on, so don't worry. We will be back as always. But thank you for joining, and it was a pleasure once again.
And Vizcal Barca 5-2 again. This is such great times as Barca fan, man. Sometimes I can do it. It's so good. We just win games and score lots of goals. So thank you guys for watching, and see you on the next one. Vizcal Barca.